Hey everybody, it is June 6, 2007. I am Sonic Sons, and I'm here talking about an idea I have called Star Wars ReImagined, or more formally, JoLuca, the Pheonix time. And the idea of this came a while ago. I think I really started to crystallize when I had my wisdom teeth out, and I spent like a whole week recovering. I had 4 teeth, they were all impacted. Anyway, but I was just sitting there, and I could barely move, but I watched all 6 Star Wars movies in a row, and I took 15 pages of notes. Big yellow legal pads of notes. This is the way I work. And various things that I keep in my mind, and still do, about how I would remake Star Wars if I had the opportunity. Now, I don't particularly think, I'll be able to in the near future anyway. I hesitate to say what may be possible in the far future. But at the moment I'm just kicking around these random ideas, which I hope other people will start kicking around, and we'll just, start building up this kind of separate fanon thing. Because, of course, this isn't canon. This is all just reimagined. It's all just inspired by the Star Wars you currently know and love. By the way, spoilers for Star Wars in this video. So I started thinking, and eventually got pretty epic. I got to 15 movies. 4 trilogies, 3 special interlude movies. The trilogies are the Qui-Gon trilogy, the Anakin trilogy, the Luke trilogy, and his daughter's trilogy. I probably should give his daughter a name. I'll do that soon. But I'm already filming. And that covers quite an expanse of time. And you have, between each trilogy, chronologically that is, there's a special interlude movie. And the interlude movies give things a galactic perspective. You see things from 100 different angles, people's names you don't even know, just like this one guy and how he's affected by this, and how this guy, and you just imagine, learning more about Darth Vader just through his reputation. Seeing it from the eyes of all these people who you just hear about him, just hear about the Empire. It'd be interesting, kind of a human interest type thing in the midst of this galactic deal. Alright, so one of the things that's bugged me about Star Wars is the flipping galaxy doesn't have a name. Now, we Earthlings are on one planet, and we've already named our galaxy. It seems strange that the Star Wars galaxy has no other name besides the Star Wars galaxy. So it has a name now, JoLuca, J-O-L-U-C-A. That is, yes, derived from George Lucas. But, it works. It sounds abstract enough to be a name. And the term, as I said, for the whole story is JoLuca, the Pheonix time. Little colon there. And it's the Pheonix because, of course, a phoenix, the mythical bird, which is, it dies in flame and is reborn from the ashes. Well, this is, of course, the death and the rebirth of the Republic, and the death and the rebirth of the Jedi Order, the death and rebirth of JoLuca in general, the death and rebirth of Anakin Skywalker, if you consider his death to be when he turns into Darth Vader, and the rebirth of redemption. And of course, the whole process of that happens through flame, as far as Phoenixes go, and this happens through a long series of wars, So, I thought it would be pretty cool. I had to have that subtitle. You can't just call it JoLuca because, hey, there's more of JoLuca before any of this I'm about to talk about, and after all this I'm about to talk about. This just happens to be the Pheonix time, as I'm calling it. You can edit whatever you want, because, this is, I don't own the Star Wars license, so I have no right to be doing this anyway. So, sketching out stuff. How would we structure things? Well, the somewhat backstory to this is there was the Republic. And they kind of have things. Well, imagine if Earth was under one government. I like this idea. We have current Earth, and you can get to anywhere on Earth, pretty easily. And there are other things beyond it, but they're completely outside our reach. So basically, we all have to be good neighbors to each other, don't we? Because we're all within each other's reach. Basically. Of course, they have the same thing, but it's more on the size of a galaxy. Alright? So the galaxy is, as I said, pretty well explored, but the idea of intergalactic travel is completely out of the question. Hyperspace doesn't go that far. It would yada yada yada. There was the Republic. which controlled a good 70 to 80% of the galaxy. I'm not going to give 100%, you know, that just doesn't work. And of course, some of the areas within its control were not really so much obeying the laws, and, you know, various things. But for the longest time, things are pretty simple. The Republic was the good guys, and there was anybody who hated the Republic was the bad guys. And there was the Jedi who were good guys, and there were the Sith who were bad guys. And this all went by pretty straightforward before, you know, this main story begins, because of course things start to get more complicated. It starts to get more complicated, and again, all this is just kind of sketched out. When we have Qui-Gon, right, being trained by Master Jedi Dooku, right, and things start changing in the galactic realm. Things start changing in many ways. For one thing, this power of the Sith is apparently defeated. There is, by the way, a whole bunch of Sith and a whole bunch of Jedi in my version of things. I'm not doing this rule of two thing the Sith have. There's a bunch of them. Some of them are a lot more powerful than others, and some are just they're minor Sith and minor Jedi, and you know, more complex things. But they were led at the time by Darth Plagueis, very powerful and all that, and he gets defeated, and a whole bunch of his other Sithlings, minor Sith, got killed, and his temple got stormed and everything, finally, in his main base and whatever, all that. Seemed a big victory for the Jedi. And by the way, the Republic seemed to be doing okay until you took a closer look. Factionalism was starting to spring up. All sorts of various planets and solar systems and alliances, and constantly shifting alliances and breaking and making agreements. And people started looking at each other. People started getting kind of greedy, you know. All sorts of just various groups start getting kind of angry at each other. This is in part due to the dealings of a certain Darth Sidious, who had gone escaped and unnoticed by most people, except for a certain person who's probably I'll detail later. Sidious, of course, being kind of a new type of Sith. He works very much behind the scenes. And I almost think of the old Jedi versus Sith motif as being kind of the samurai thing. And if you know anything about samurai, these guys would call each other out on the field of battle. You know, there'd be a big war going on, and they'd be like, "Hey, I challenge you!" And then they'd have this honorable duel, the two of them. Well, the Sith are not exactly honorable. But they, under Plagueis at least, and for generations before that, had been a lot more showy, powerful. Bam, bam, bam. Look at us, we're freaking Sith. Again, obvious evils. Sidious, being as insidious as he is, came up with trickier things to do. For instance, not acting like a Sith. Putting himself up as Chancellor Palpatine. Or rather, you know, just plain old Palpatine, eventually becomes Senator, eventually becomes a Chancellor, and the most powerful Sith in the galaxy ends up being Chancellor of the whole flipping Republic. Getting a bit ahead of ourselves there. What's happening in the Qui-Gon trilogy, Qui-Gon getting trained by Dooku and stuff, and we're starting to see flaws in the Jedi Order, right? And who better to show us all these flaws than Qui-Gon, who's known for his rebellious attitude towards the Council and all that, and Dooku, who's known for leaving the Jedi Order. And he leaves it on peaceful terms, you know, officially anyway. I find that interesting. I mean, imagine that moment where it doesn't come down to a big battle between Dooku and Qui-Gon. It comes down to just this parting thing, you know, and Dooku says, "No, come with me, come on," you know. And Qui-Gon holds back because he knows there is still good to the Jedi Order. And I'll make that point clear because complicated as things get, we generally still do have the Jedi, the good guys, and the Sith are the bad guys.